Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins in the year 1936. The Great British Empire continues its expansion around the world. Many young men finish their education and work as administrators in Sarawalk, a state in Malaysia. John Truscott is a young future administrator of a small village. He arrives on a ferry to the village and sits with his bags, waiting to be welcomed. He is very tired from the journey, but is nonetheless excited about the adventure ahead. The young man turns to passers-by to try to get some information, but no one pays attention to the overseas visitor. Finally, from the water appears Balansai, a native with many tattoos, who is tasked with bringing the newcomer to the village. They board a boat, and John arrives on the island, where he is greeted by the local laughing girls. Soon after, John meets Henry, an Englishman who has been running the village for many years. Henry now speaks the local dialect perfectly, and is eager to teach John all the things he has learned all these years. Henry exchanges a few words with Balansai, and invites John into a vehicle, which by the way, does not move by motor but by mule. Henry suspects that John has either run away from England from his wife, or from debts. But John's story is totally different. His mother died a few years ago, and his father wanted his son to take in his own path and teach the native tribes. So after finishing his studies, John says he came to Sarawak with the intention of educating the primitive jungle tribes. Nevertheless, Henry doesn't share the young administrator's optimism, realizing that he has not yet fully understood the situation ahead of him. John meets the tribal chief named Malacca, who throws a party in his honor. Malacca shakes his hand, and offers to drink rice vodka with them. Initially, the young man refuses, as he doesn't drink alcohol, but then he is told that by refusing, he would offend the tribe. So, John sets aside his principles, and the party begins with lots of rice drinking, dancing, and performances by tribal girls. During the party, John sees a beautiful girl named Salima. The girl looks at him with a seductive gaze. After dancing for him, Salima hands him her necklace, which means that now John has to entertain them somehow. The young man stands up and recites a poem in English, but it is not appreciated, because not everyone understands his language. Drunk, he starts dancing with a guy, and all the people around burst out laughing. Everyone has a great time, and is happy to welcome John, but he completely overestimates his abilities, and collapses on the ground outside the bungalow after a few too many drinks. Before he passes out, he sees Aborigines walking past him, with an ugly and unpleasant burden in their hands. In the morning, the young master learns from Henry that what he saw last night were the heads of the tribe's enemies, and he did not have a dream at all. In fact, Henry says that he will have to retrieve these trophies to earn the enemy warriors' respect. But this is not the only surprise in store for him. The girl who caught his eye the day before, Salima, is brought to him, and told that she will live with him in his bedroom, and has become his sleeping dictionary, meaning she has to sleep with him, and teach him the language. Salima is a night lyricist, and has 3 years to teach him their language and the important tricks of the trade. Although John has no contractual right to marry, he doesn't like the idea, but everyone warns him that if he offends Salima, he might offend the tribe as well, so it is best to leave his principles aside. John has difficulty with tribal life, and besides, Balansai is constantly picking on foreigners. In addition, the domestic worker suspects that John has an unconventional sexual orientation, and brings him a young fellow. In time, the young man learns to ignore the silly jokes by rubbing the arrogant Aborigines' nose in them, saying he drinks too much and makes a mess. Later, relations with Salima grow warmer, although John still refuses to share a bed with her, explaining that his religion does not allow it. But the experienced girl manages to get her way, and as she teaches him their local language, she seduces him, and they make love. Every night, John learns different words, and has a great time. The only thing that puzzles him is that Salima goes to his room every night. She explains that according to the rules of the tribe, if the couple stays together in the same bed until dawn, they will be considered as a couple destined to be together for life. But this is clearly not part of the Englishman's plan. Henry invites the teacher to an evening, where he introduces him to his daughter Cecilia. She is also soon to become a teacher. John soon grows tired of socializing with these extravagant people, and returns to his bungalow with Salima. Cecilia has come to shoot a report and take memorable photographs. Salima asks her friend to make her stop, but John does not have the courage to confront the chief's daughter, and walks away from the discussion. Just then, a canoe arrives in the tribe with 2 people on board, showing signs of the beginning of an epidemic. Cecilia's mother tells John about the great prospects for him if he marries her daughter. Mrs. Aggie realizes that John does not love his daughter, and tells him that only by growing up will he understand what love is. Back at the bungalow, John quarrels with Salima, and begins corresponding with Cecilia. But in the morning, They set out on a quest to find out what disease is approaching the settlement. Making their way through the jungle, none of the search party notices enemy scouts lurking in the trees. Back in the village, John and his friends find most of the villagers in critical condition, but they cannot get very far, because an unidentified white man starts shooting. After hunting down their attacker, the men see that silver is being mined in the jungle near the village. Salima, who catches the unknown disease, gets worse, and John plans to take the girl to the valley to find a doctor, but the village is attacked. The masked assailants accuse John of bringing the disease into the jungle. Looking around, he realizes that poisoned rice has been brought into the village, to cleanse the area of people, so that silver can be extracted. As they talk, someone in the distance shoots at them, and John suggests that Balansai goes after him. The two find a whole team of workers mining silver. John returns to his beloved, who is getting worse and worse, and he promises her that they will find a solution tomorrow. After that, together with the masked assailants, John goes to teach the Europeans who have poisoned their rice a lesson. Later, John tells Salima that he wants to be with her for the rest of his days. Nevertheless, the girl that the tribe rules will not allow it, but John promises that he will take care of everything. Tribe members give John and Salima 2 bracelets with blue stones. In short order, they approve of this marriage, but Henry does not like the idea. He explains to him that when he was young, he too fell in love with a girl from the tribe, but he had to leave her, and that is what he should do as well. On Henry's orders, the girl is taken to the tribal chief, who warns her that if she does not break up with the foreigner, the British will accuse her of slaughtering the mining band, and that John himself will be killed for the same thing. On the other hand, Henry and his wife advise him to go back to England and return after a year to calm things down. Faced with this situation, Salima and John publicly refuse to be together. A year later, John marries Cecilia in a London church, while Salima marries Balansai. After some time, John and his new wife return to the jungle, to continue their business. He continually tries to find Salima in the crowd, but he cannot. Cecilia notices, and tries to distract her husband with her knowledge, but his thoughts remain on the tribe girl. He meets a man who works for the Truscott family, Neville. He is a violent man and behaves badly with the women of the tribe, and John sticks up for him. When he returns to the room, John overhears Cecilia talking to his mother. Mrs. Truscott suspects that John does not love her, as he does not hug her or say sweet words to her. So when John goes inside, he immediately pretends to be a model husband by hugging Cecilia. The next day, John notices Salima on the other side of the river, with Balansai and her newborn son. Putting 2 and 2 together, the man realizes that it is his child and not the girl's husband. John goes to talk to the cook, and his theory is confirmed: the little one is really his son. The cook arranges for the young couple to meet, but the girl quickly leaves, realizing that if anyone finds out, she will be punished severely. The next day Mrs. Truscott approaches John, and asks if Cecilia is pregnant. After John tells him no, the lady makes him realize that she wants to have grandchildren and must get busy. Later that day, John and Salima play together, with the little son, and are spotted by the evil Neville and a member of the tribe. Balansai learns of this, and sneaks into John's bungalow and attacks him. This is considered a very serious crime, and the tribe begins a serious trial, at which everyone awaits John's decision. Henry calls John aside, and confides to him that Salima is his daughter, born of a torrid affair with a local woman many years before. Since he has managed to hide it for so long, John must do the same with his son. At the trial, John finds Balansai guilty of the attack, despite Salima's pleas to spare her husband's life, but John has no choice. The local women banish the girl and her son from the community. At night, John himself helps the prisoner escape from the prison, without waiting for his execution the next morning, and proposes to Salima that they escape from the tribe together, but the girl realizes that this is impossible. The next day, Henry learns that Balansai has escaped, and knows full well that John helped him. The man tells him that if it were not for Cecilia, he would have already killed him. In light of the new news, Cecilia's mother Neville and their assistant take the girl in, since she is now no longer accepted among her own. Salima has no choice but to accept. Cecilia informs her husband that he will soon be a father, but the news does not bring him much joy. After spending the night in the bungalow with Neville, Salima punishes him severely. The cook allows the girl to escape, promising her to finish what she started. Cecilia tells her husband she does not want to see him unhappy, and lets him go, even though she is having a baby. Salima arrives at the pier, but does not find John, and leaves for the mountains, thinking the guy has once again backed out. But the cook tells the boy where he should look for his beloved, and he goes in search of her. As Salima climbs into a canoe with her son, and plans to escape, Henry arrives with a gun in his hand. The girl confesses to him that she is aware that he is her father, and the man embraces his daughter, and lets her go. Henry's secret becomes public knowledge, and Cecilia supports his father in his decision to release Salima, but his wife cannot let it go so easily, and tells Neville that he has been given permission to kill Salima. John runs through the jungle with a picture of his beloved, and asks all the tribes if they have seen her. Neville does not stop looking either, and although John ends up being the first to find the girl, the villain has the advantage of having a rifle in his hand. After convincing John to tie himself to a fence, the man approaches Salima from behind, hugging her, and promising to do dirty things to her, after which he will kill her, along with those she loves most. Fortunately, the wild tribesmen come to their aid, and with some poisoned arrows, free the young people from Neville. The couple obtains shelter with the tribe, but in the morning, the natives go into the jungle to stay away from the whites. John decides to go with Salima and her son, along with the tribe, not fearing that he will have a quiet life with his loved ones, in the world's remotest corners. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.